Chapter 8. And then... We're moving towards the winter season. Our camp has the proper means to deal with that, so there is no dire need to find firewood, for example. No, our buildings are quite modern, and the power lines leading here supply us with all the power we could possibly need. Each day gets windier, though. More rain, more soggy ground. It makes our walks less pleasant, but being in each other's company matters more than that. Overall, we're living comfortable lives without especially heavy work or demanding duties. Everyday chores are a fact, however, and occasionally Emma asks us for help with various things as well. These various things would normally be handled by the staff on this camp, but they haven't been. This is something I haven't been able to avoid thinking about a lot lately. Since the very beginning, we were told to be completely uninvolved in matters such as food delivery, more significant maintenance, and so on. This hasn't really been the case, though. At some point, we gradually took over these duties. We're so many, so when shared, the burden is quite small, insignificant, and even forgettable. The big question that's been grinding my gears is, why? Have they abandoned us? Had the state's budget for the project been decreased, or had the project itself even been scrapped? It's true, for now, we're living in comfort, but say if the power lines were to be severed, we'd have a very cold winter ahead of us. That's assuming we'd be able to fairly ration the food we have without uproar and deceit. We're entirely reliant on forces out of our control. That's the truth of this camp. It makes me anxious to think about what could be awaiting us one day if things were to drastically change. We're in a vulnerable position. There are many preparations I would like to take in case of a worst-case scenario, but haven't. My main reason for not doing so would be to not spook the others. There are many theories and suspicions I've had ever since I arrived here. However, a great deal of people are just about getting comfortable, and dropping my paranoid theories on them would be as devastating as bombs. I wouldn't want to create more problems when we already have so many social issues to deal with. If I can, I want to help people become happy here. And to do that, I need to keep my paranoia under control. Before we encounter something that truly justifies my paranoid thoughts, I need to keep them all to myself. And during this, I need to instill confidence in others. For now, I need to pull my own weight and then some. Yes, indeed. However, my ambitious plans for a better social life in the camp aside, something I hadn't anticipated soon came into play. I feel like I just heard some birds chirping, but I wonder if that was really it. A calm day. We're in the forest, the four of us. It's the first time we've come out here together. The only possible way from the camp is through here somewhere. After all, it has got to be. With a camp in the center in all directions, only forest awaits. Exploration is on today's agenda. Nothing has changed, we're in no hurry to get out, we're living quite comfortably at the camp after all. If something were to happen though, it'd be nice to know your way around out here. Despite the serious and ambitious goal we set for ourselves today, I can tell we're all experiencing inner peace. Good moods all around, and we're walking together, admiring the beautiful, never-changing nature. It'd be absurd not to enjoy such a thing. Gosh, I just love it out here, so calm. Nothing like some truly fresh air. They're both wearing gleeful expressions as we walk among the trees. The wind touches my skin pleasantly. It's cool yet refreshing. Lorelei is silently walking alongside me with her nose in her notepad. I love it. Of course you do. You're such a hedonist. Hedonist or not, I do feel like this is where I'm supposed to be. This silence, it's so pleasant. I feel good about you two joining us as well. I'll never say no to a good conversation. Speaking of conversation, there's not a whole lot of talking going on between you two, is there? Charlotte grins teasingly. I subconsciously shoot Lorelei a glance. She's still got her nose in her notebook, although blushing, probably about as much as I am. Ben catches on the meaning of her remark and gives me a smirk. Damn it. I suppose we're as transparent about it as you could be. Good for you two. Knowing Ben, he means it. It doesn't make it less awkward when put on the spot, though. Charlotte laughs and teases us in a playful tone. In the forest like a pair of animals. Hey now. Charlotte continues to giggle at us as we continue our walk. My mind drifts off for just a bit, though. I think about all the things I want to inform them about. All the things they need to know, now that our operation isn't a secret anymore. It's hard not to live in the moment, though, after all. Our lives aren't nearly as bad as they could be. I just feel like there's something else out there waiting for us. Another way of life. Another purpose. Another fate. Ben changes the subject and brings up a more serious matter. People are getting more tense. I don't know why or when it happened, but it seems that way to me. They say they're getting fed up. It's been just long enough for people to get accustomed to their new lives. When the comfort kicked in, perhaps they went on to thinking they deserve more. Is that how you become spoiled? This is all fine, but are we truly willing to settle? You start off with one. It's new and interesting. And then soon after, you wonder why you can't have two. After all, two means twice as good. And once you've effortlessly been given two, you feel like you deserve three. Human nature is like that. Predictable and not nearly as random as we think we are. The secret behind the human mind is the biggest mystery of them all. When everything's said and done, certain things just show how simple we are. Isn't that right, Lorelei? Tense in what way? I think that, well, that they're bored. So, we're to expect people to resist the rules and the leadership soon, then. I say this in an almost joking manner. When the words come out, I realize I was pretty serious after all. I think back on that morning I did my laundry and the conversation I overheard. Lorelei looks away and mumbles. They'll resist. The leaders will constrain. They'll be controlled for a while, and then resist with twice the original force, and thus a circle of oppression will begin. That's actually not quite true. It's not a circle because it has an end. The only outcome is revolution. You say such profound things sometimes, Lorelei. It's honestly a bit intimidating. Lorelei's right, though. It is not unlikely that's what will happen, even out here. An imbalance in power that has that effect on humans, even if the humans are treated equally among themselves. Charlotte's right, too. Lorelei has a knack for surprising you with barrages of insight. It's quite attractive to me, actually. It also makes me wonder what goes on inside her head most of the time, as only a small part of what she thinks is actually uttered, I imagine. I trust most people won't get violent, though. I've met some really nice people out here, and I don't see them being like that. You'd be surprised. You'd be surprised indeed. New circumstances, new rules, new things to adapt to. It has an effect on even the most sane of humans. But we've been fine so far. We've dealt with our problems systematically and without any major issues. Most people really are better off than they were before they got here. Anyway, I for one plan on finding out what's really out there. What's really on the other side of this forest? What we left to be what we'll return to. Right? I'm not too optimistic. We were brought here for a reason, don't forget that. Charlotte seems offended. So why are we even doing this? If you already know what dreadful things await us, I mean. I don't know anything about that. I only know what kind of life I left, and it wasn't a good one. I'd like to think, though, that we're not meant to live like this either. I feel like this forest has a lot of answers for us. We just haven't come up with the right questions yet. You're strange. If you know something I don't, let me know right now. Charlotte doesn't look pleased at all. So, and what more do you want me to say? I already told you what I know, and what I believe the right course of action to be is. So you say. Lead the way then, Miss Genius. Ben looks a bit troubled. I know he doesn't approve of Charlotte's occasional snarky attitude. He puts his hand on her shoulder and whispers something in her ear. Charlotte's features become a bit softer. Sorry, I just really feel like you're keeping things from us sometimes. I can relate. What Lorelai's thinking is never easy to imagine, and it often does feel like she's really just a visitor from another realm. I wouldn't. I'll likely want to get out of here too, just like you. I don't feel like I belong here or there. I'm not like you. You know, it's not like I feel like I belong here either. But you can pretend in a way I can't. I understand what she's getting at. Back at the camp, Charlotte always had a way of making it seem like living there was the least of her worries. She seemed happy with what she had, and had Ben not gotten her involved, she might have been blissfully ignorant. Charlotte doesn't have time to reply to Lorelai's claim. There's something in front of us, and our silence is proof of its significance. A small shed. What's this doing out here? We look at one another to gauge each other's reactions. No one dares to say it, but this really shouldn't be here, should it? So far, not a single thing we've found has been put there without intention. What I wonder is what the intention behind this hut is. I find myself glancing over at Lorelai. Her expression doesn't say a lot, but her eyes do. She approaches it without a word. The wooden door opens smoothly. The door hits the wall, and wood meets wood, gives off a cloud of dust. I can't see Lorelai enter from this angle, but I can hear her mumble. I move closer. Lorelai's on her knees inside the hut. There are books all over the floor, and she's flinging them around with intent. Georg Simmel's on individuality and social forms, Emil Durkheim's on suicide, a study in sociology, and the division of labor and society. So those are actually real books, I believe. I've heard of Emil Durkheim before. There are many whose titles I can't read from here, too. The small wooden hut is packed with them. The floor is covered in them, and Lorelai is furiously digging through them. I've seen all these. All of these I've seen before. Not only that, I've read them, too. Lorelai turns around towards us and digs her eyes into me. The library. I've seen these too. Sociology books. I never did read them, though. But she did. Well, it is said that these books contain, simply put, a blueprint of human behavior. They're designed to explain the how and the why, and are mainly used to grant further understanding of social phenomena. No one is as complicated as they think they are. Hence, to some degree, everyone's behavior can be explained through theories in these books. No matter how hard you try, when it comes to cognitive functions, you can't bypass the fact you're just another human. There's no randomness to human behavior, and these books prove just that. We're simple and predictable, but admitting so is, well, not really something most people do. We need our ego to make what we believe to be the most optimal decision. I guess it's a kind of coping mechanism. Humans need to believe they possess an ability they don't. If the ego was to admit weakness, anxiety would be overwhelming. Realizing how little control you really have is the pinnacle of anxiety. Right, I remember that afternoon. This is freaking me out. Can we get out of here? Not quite yet. Lorelai replies without delay. She gets up promptly and walks around the cabin as if searching for something. What are you even looking for? Because I really don't want to be out here for longer than I have to. She's looking for traces of human presence. And they're not here. Not even traces of animals. The surrounding vegetation has been untouched. In fact, it seems to me like this hut has been undisturbed out here all this time. A chill runs down my spine for reasons I don't understand. I suppose the forest was large enough to not find something like this before setting up the settlement, but still. Someone might have been here, but it was a long time ago in that case. And you said you've already read all those books. There's a library that most people don't know about. I've been visiting it for a while. She looks over at me. You too? What? I shrug. I found out not too long ago, though. Man, all these secrets. What else don't I know? It's time to open up to us a bit more. I really don't like being in the dark. I don't even read that much. It's more about the principle. We're in this together, aren't we? He's got a point. I guess Laurel and I just got used to being so secretive that it became second nature. Actually, I guess it's more like first nature for her. She's always been this way. I'm sorry. Charlotte sighs. Well, now you know. She thereafter looks around in confusion for a short while. Does anyone else hear that? As a matter of fact, yes. It's a whining noise whose origins I can't quite place. Sounds much like pieces of dry wood rubbing against each other. Lorelei looked as she was about to open her mouth, but freezes midway. She looks at me and secretly nudges upwards. Upwards. I follow the trees' trunks up towards their crowns. That's when I see it. Why? I guess he never did return, and this explains why. From a branch thicker than most, the man from that one day is hanging with a rope around his neck. Wrapped around his arm is a translucent sack made of plastic, full of what seems to be supplies. His arm is purple and sticks out in contrast to his otherwise pale skin. He's certainly deceased. His arm looks severely constrained by the plastic bag, and has trapped dried blood within it. The carcass dangles with each gust of air that passes us by, and it's creating a horrible whining noise. There is no distinguishable smell, however. Whether that's because of the added altitude of his corpse or due to him dying recently, I do not know. We're in the middle of a discussion. The topic is how to deal with what just happened. I felt conflicted, but we ended up leaving him right there. I don't think anyone was supposed to die out here. I don't even know if the agents of this camp have a way of dealing with corpses. And even if they did, this is not the kind of attention we want to associate ourselves with. A misinterpretation of the situation can easily get us in deep trouble. That is not to say that this conversation has resulted in a unanimous decision yet. He'll decompose naturally, whether that be from degradation or, well, birds or other animals. Charlotte twitches in my peripheral vision. She's clearly uncomfortable about the situation. What about Emma? Emma's in this with us. She should know. Sure, but on the other hand, she'll have to keep a straight face when she tells Daniel she has no idea where the guy went, if they ever start asking questions. The question is, do we want to burden her with that responsibility? Good point. A corpse might be a bit too much to classify as a concealable secret, even for someone with a surprisingly straight face like Emma. Perhaps we shouldn't tell her after all. Not until more time has passed. A search might be carried out at some point. Once that has passed, we could let her in on what we know. That way it'll be easier for her. Lorelei sneaks up to me and wraps herself around my arm firmly. I'm with Quentin on this one. Fine, but I won't be the one to tell her we kept something like this from her. How about you do it, Quentin? Fair enough. I don't lie. I had nothing to do with this, and I won't be feeling sorry for something I didn't decide. Got it? I feel like I could break it to her nicely, so I'm not about to object. I'm also guessing I have more faith in my friendship with Emma than he does. Got it. Not one day later than it has to be, okay? Not knowing can do just as much damage as knowing. That's, yet another good point. The fact that she'll lack a piece of information like this might make her less attentive to details she otherwise would have noticed. You're right. Let's keep it a secret for a while, but if it seems like she'd be better off with this information rather than without it, we'll tell her. The others are quiet. I perceive the silence as a sign that we're in agreement. Then it's decided. We eventually start to walk back to camp in silence. know if the silence is due to them being in shock, or if they're trying to be considerate of the others like I am. I'm unsure what to say in moments like these. How people react to death is highly individual, and I don't want to upset anyone with a poor choice of words. Furthermore, this wasn't just any death. Even though the man hanging up there wasn't a friend of ours, it's still a human life that is no longer. In addition to that, we don't know the exact reason as to why he's now dead. To be fair, if anything, he was an enemy of ours. He threatened the safety we experience every day at the camp. His actions may have had a substantial effect on the mental state of the camp's inhabitants, indirect or otherwise. The man was a threat to our society. The seeds he may have planted with his selfishness and egotistic actions may very well be real, and honestly, it's almost as if he ended up being punished for it. We walk, and we walk some more. At some point, we get separated due to Lorelai's naturally high walking speed. I only realize we're far ahead of Ben and Charlotte when I hear Charlotte yelling, "Guys, wait up!" "Hey, Lorelai, hang on." I poke her on the side, and she looks up from her notepad and meets my eyes, doe-eyed. Charlotte stops rapidly moving in our direction. When she finally catches up to us, she's out of breath. We need to go back." I subconsciously form my hand into a fist as a reaction to these alarming words. Why? Ben swears he smelled water. Lorelai takes off in the direction Charlotte just came from. Charlotte is right behind her. If Ben truly did smell the scent of water, if that's even a thing, that could be exactly what we've been looking for all this time. I decide to stop speculating and follow them myself. When I arrive at the scene, a marvelous sight awaits me. Mountains stretch from right to left as far as the eye can see. They're covered in thick forestry. Last but not least, a massive ocean fills up the rest of my vision. Lorelai looks out over it. A mild sea breeze is caressing my face. My lungs feel renewed. I almost start laughing maniacally as I feel sudden bursts of energy running throughout my body. For some reason, I feel incredibly relieved. One step closer. I'm wearing a huge grin and it's not going anywhere for now. Lorelai and the others climb down a steep cliff onto a small beach while jubilating. I would describe what we found as a cove of sorts, and in it, they stand as I look down on them from here. Lorelai is furiously scribbling notes in her notepad. Ben and Charlotte are cheering on each other, hugging and high-fiving. So noisy. But I feel the same way. I'm full of joy. I look for a way to get down to them. Ben sees this and points towards a set of natural stairs molded into the cliff. I walk down them without any trouble. How convenient. I run up next to Lorelai. My feet sink into the soft sand. I wrap my arms around her stomach from behind and she giggles briefly. Her body is warm, solid, and awfully huggable. I give her a firm squeeze. She smiles terrifically while scribbling on. Her concentration as strong as ever. The curved cliff creates a roof over our heads and the ground is slightly tilted. If it were to rain, this would be an ideal place to seek shelter at. It's amazing. Charlotte overhears my words. Right? And it's all thanks to Ben. Charlotte clings onto him and gives him a kiss on the cheek. Well, it's true, we wouldn't have found it today if it weren't from him. But I don't think she realizes the amount of work we put into excluding other areas to explore. Had we continued with our mapping, it would have taken long for us to find this place regardless. Lorelai seems far too busy to even reply to Charlotte. I just smile because right now, I feel like nothing could bring me down. It's obvious to me that the dead man is no longer on any of our minds. That's how much of a distraction this is. What a find. One step closer indeed. Later that evening, we returned home. Laurel and I just said goodnight to Ben and Charlotte, and we are now walking around the camp. Just the two of us, as per tradition. It's incredibly dark nowadays once the sun fully sets. I can see my feet, but any unevenness in the ground is lost to my eyes. Covered by fine sand, the path we walk on is as smooth as ever. Do you feel happy about our discoveries today? Very happy. There were 2 discoveries, you know. There were. I wouldn't say the first one was something to be happy about. Nor would I. But that's not much to say. If we were to take the stance of wanting to find out what happened to him, we'd be powerless. We don't have the means of doing any kind of investigating other than what I've already done. Lastly, and more importantly, we can't even admit to anyone we've been out there, which makes it fundamentally impossible, even if we had the means. Also, if they conduct an investigation, no, when they conduct an investigation, we need to stay far, far out of their way so as to not raise suspicion. We're doing enough shady business as it is. No, we stay quiet about this, barring letting Emma know when the moment is right. That moment, the right moment, never came though, which is something I would soon learn.